This is the Brett Snodgrass podcast. Welcome to a very fun show that I have for you today. I have Roger Woolsey on the podcast with me, who's the CEO of Million Air. It's voted the number one premier fixed-base operation chain 10 years in a row in the aviation industry. They provide upscale private aviation services to airports, individuals, and corporate flight departments. This is a very fun show because right away, Roger has met some very interesting people. He started off by touring with rock bands, by delivering services for Chicago. He talked about Bono with U2. Now they're in the medical field as well. They deliver organs for transplants to hospitals. They also are in the entertainment industry still, and they work with a lot of high net worth corporate individuals for charter aviation. So it's a very interesting podcast, and you guys are going to want to listen to it if you're into how do you get a private charter plane, and he compares it to kind of like Uber. So before we get into Roger Woolsey introducing him, go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. It is now called the Iron Deep channel, and our website is irondeep.com, and we're basically on a mission to build a men's community of CEOs that want more of that intimate relationship with God, more faith in their life, but also sharpening each other in a holistic approach, whether it's business and finances, marriage and family, God and health. And that's what we're on a mission to do. So go over to irondeep.com, check out our YouTube channel at Iron Deep, and we'll see you guys there. So now, I want to introduce you to Roger Woolsey. What's going on, Roger?
Just living the dream, Brett.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to this because you have probably one of the most unique companies, or leading one of the most unique companies that I've had a privilege to be on the show. You run a CEO of a company called Million Air, which I love. It's an aviation company, and basically you are a fixed-base operation in the aviation industry, and you get to hang out with some amazing people, and people get to hitchhike on your airplanes and fly around the world. That's amazing. But before we get into talk about Million Air, I want to talk about Roger a little bit. So let's just tell us, man, like, who is Roger Woolsey?
He's the luckiest guest you've ever had on your show. How's that? There's no doubt about that. And you know, we sometimes substitute the word lucky for blessed, but yeah, very, very lucky.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And so how long have you been running this company? You've been in business for a long time in the hospitality industry, marketing, branding. What's that journey been like?
It's been a great journey. Started out, grew up in Northwest Arkansas. Was a pilot at one time. Was the youngest pilot in the U.S. I got lucky there as well. I just fell in love with it and ran with it. And it's the journey is interesting and lucky as well. There's not to be too faith-based, but they always say that God's dreams for you are bigger than yours could ever be, you know, and it's one of those things. So I used to just dream and wish I could work at the airport, and started out waxing and washing airplanes. Then my God, I wish they'd let me get closer. And the next thing you know, I'm fixing them and riding in the right seat. And God, I wish I could be a pilot, and became one. No, it was an interesting journey. In Northwest Arkansas, I used to mow yards and paint fences to save money for flying lessons, and I was doing so for a gentleman who watched the work ethic since I was about 9, doing it, saving the money. And when I got my license, he called me one day and said, "Did you really do that? Did you finish it?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." It's like, "Well, okay, well, I may have a job for you," and I'm like, "But you're Mr. Volman. I mow your yard. What do you mean you have a job for me?" But it ends up he was the personal pilot to Eric Clapton and at that time, and Ricky Iglesias, and he made a recommendation. And 3 days later, I was in the co-pilot seat with Stevie Nicks doing her world tour.
Wow!
And I just seriously couldn't believe it. And so that turned into really what drives my life in business. You know, there was the great commercial from the Gillette guy. Remember, he loved the company so much he bought it. I tend to see things that need to be fixed and jump in, not thinking about the business, not thinking about profit, not thinking about how to do it, what my resources are, because I've never had the resources. But I was out flying these tours and bands, and I was on tour with Chicago at the time, the band Chicago. And I'm also a mechanic on these aircraft, and we had a mechanical, and I was working all night. They were making fun of me at the time for my why I was greasy flying the plane. And I'm like, why do you guys like, it's not a guitar or a drumstick or a guitar pick, I mean, let me pick the plane. You pick the pretty plane that I fly it, but I'm fixing the termites behind the scenes. And the lead guitarist, I'll never forget, went up the stairs of the airplane and went, that'd be a good business for you. And, and I'm 19 years old. I'm dumber than a box of rocks, not knowing, but I thought what I heard him tell me to do is to go start a business. And so I did. And that's really kind of what started it. And found a crazy banker that was crazy enough to give me a loan, which couldn't believe. I mean, I had over, no exaggeration, probably 200 banks tell me no, of course. I mean, you got a 19-year-old kid trying to borrow $1 million, and if they didn't throw you out of the bank, they'd laugh. And what do you want with $1 million? Buy a plane. They'd laugh or throw you out. And then what are you going to do with the plane? I'm going to fly rock bands. And then you definitely got thrown out of the bank. So I got thrown out a lot, and got used to that. And, but bada boom, bada bing, got a plane, got one plane, two planes. I think by the time I was around 22, 23 years old, I think we had 90% of every rock tour that was flying at that time in the US on tour. It was going really well, and twisted off and started. I had a client who needed a medevac one night. Same thing. An airplane shows up, and didn't seem very fancy to me. And I thought, if you didn't need the medevac before you got on that plane, you need it after, and so the next thing I thought I needed to fix that. Went and got a aircraft and started doing medevac in 1991, and started doing that. Now when you're on tour, you're in a different city every night. You the trucks follow you, and you're in a different city. We'd literally be on the road 9 months out of the year. The medical business was different. I kept coming home to the same hospital system every night. So now I'm using the same FBO, the same gas station, the same terminal. And I started realizing, I don't understand. These airplanes are a big deal. The clients are a big deal. They're first impressions. My wife has this saying. She says, you always taste your food first with your eyes. And I kept thinking, this has got to be fixed too. So next thing you know, I bought one of the dadgum gas stations, called FBOs, and decided that they weren't gas stations. What's your product? And most of these FBOs thought their product was selling gas, and I really thought it was service. I thought it was first impressions. I thought it was more than a fueling station, and we really went at that with a vengeance, and it ends up that's kind of our big business today. So it's sort of strange. The tail grew a dog, if you will. We didn't ever mean to be here. It wasn't the intention. It wasn't in the business plan. But here we are in 2022, and we're the third largest FBO chain on the globe, which is shocking to me. And we feed a lot of lives and make a lot of first impressions, and we have a lot of fun. And that's the millionaire business today. So we're running one line of business. We're still doing medevacs. We fly heart, lung, liver transplants, probably got, anywhere between 6 and 10 a day that we're operating. We're still flying VIP clients. We're still flying entertainment bands. We have these service stations, repair. We've got a repair business. And so millionaire is just kind of a little of everything in aviation, if that makes sense.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And it just kind of gives me that 30,000 foot view of the service that you provide. We're going to talk about a little bit about service and hospitality, because I think, again, that's what you offer. And I'm sure there's a lot of pressure when you're flying around rock bands, for example. I'm sure they have high expectations, right? They're not just a normal crew getting on your aircraft, but just kind of give that fixed base operation. So you basically, can you kind of give a little bit more summary of exactly what you do? So I know you have private aircraft, you fly around rock bands, you work in the medical field, delivering transplants, right? So, and you're based, you hold your aircraft in airports. Can you kind of give us a little bit more of a summary of that?
Yeah. So I guess for our business, we a little bit like a car dealership where you've got a repair business in the back, you've got a car sales in the front. And even though we as clients see that as a dealership, those are really two very different businesses with very different cultures, with very different disciplines, in a business level, key indicators, success goals. And in ours is sort of the same. So on the aircraft charter side of my business, I think for the viewer, a bit like an Uber, right? So you pick up the phone, you call us, and we're not the bus, we're not the airline, we're more of Uber. So take the United States. There's 500 airports that you can buy a Southwest, United, American, Delta airline ticket to. There's 15,000 landing strips. I mean, you yourself in Indianapolis, Indianapolis International is the main airport, but there must be 15 airports within a 40-mile radius of Indianapolis. Because if you're going to North Indianapolis, that's quite different than South. And, there's airports in Bloomington and, Lafayette, Indiana, and, all the small towns. So they're very important, these airports. And so, for example, 20 years ago, if you wanted to visit Walmart and sell your widget or your golf balls, you had to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, a different state, or fly to Little Rock and drive 4.5 hours to see the corporate headquarters. But, today there's 5 airports within 15 minutes of Rogers, Arkansas. So that's how small businesses access the world. And so these charter planes that we do, the Uber, if you will, you could literally call up and take an aircraft and go specifically anywhere in the world, much less just the United States directly. So that's what the charter does. Now we subsect that down into executives, entertainment, or medevac. But at the end of the day, it's a small private jet, and you get to go anywhere you need to go, right when you need to go, at 24/7, 365. No lines, no wait. You don't have 120 of your closest strangers riding with you, it's your plane.
Yeah.
So that's what the charter does. And then the FBO, all these private aircraft, again, I'm speaking primarily in the US, we're the air power of the world. I mean, we've got, over, I don't even know, over 20,000 corporate jets in the US, and there's probably over 100,000 small planes, single engine airplanes where doctors, dentists, fire chiefs, have a private airplane and a private license. So when they fly, just like an airline, they need a gate to go to. They have to get off that gate, get a car, get in a taxi. They need fuel. They need aircraft. They need to get their tires filled. They need oil. They got to fix their planes when they're broken or need inspections. So the FBO, in a sense, is that. And then our twist on that, and now the industry seems to really be trying to keep pace, is we think that we think that's a big deal. We think if you're flying that corporate aircraft in, if you're going to Champion Sparkplug because you've got an idea or a product to sell them, I mean, it's a big deal, and we just think that you ought to arrive in a big deal place. So we have turned these gas stations, if you will, into more of VIP lounges. So when you land, we have concierge. We valet your jet, your aircraft. You pull up to a nice front door. You walk into a nice lobby. You've got a beautiful restroom. We have rental cars. We arrange your town cars or your Ubers, a place to pick you up. If you're Home Depot and you're flying out to see some of your locations and stores, while the executives are doing the work for the day at the local stores, your pilots are stuck at the airport with nothing to do. So we have pilot lounges. We have vehicles for them. Some of our locations actually have golf simulators in them, little home theaters in them. So they're little home away from home, because executives and passengers and pilots that are on the road, I mean, it can be hard on you and demanding, and your schedule may be heavy. So it's our job to make that easy for them, so that when they land, we're their local concierge, taking care of all the logistics and the restaurants and the hotel arrangements and to make it easy. And in fact, all of our locations have even high-end conference rooms. So again, you could literally land in at our city and not even have to leave the airport. You could have those local people that you came to visit come to our location, and you can actually hold our conference rooms and hold those meetings. So if you're, for example, we get companies that are going public, they do what they call roadshows. And, a roadshow used to take a week because you could only have time to see one group of investors in the morning and maybe another set that evening in another city with a private aircraft. But now you could maybe do 4 cities, because the minute you land, all the investors could be already in our conference room. You land, you go in, you do your presentation, get back on the jet, go to the next city.
Wow.
So we're about efficiencies and making things easy for those travelers that are using corporate and business aviation as a tool.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, like I said, you have really learned the craft of hospitality and serving these clients. And I want to just talk about that a little bit. So you've mentioned so many just amazing details to make these executives, business owners, corporate, top producing men and women just feel at home and efficiency. Is this something that is just throughout the years? Have you asked questions, people giving you feedback? And where did just some of these ideas come from? Is this just been something that's just been kind of like brewing through the years that you've just have it? Because when I think of flying your plane, for example, like you said, it's like, well, if I fly into the Indianapolis International Airport, I kind of have everything right there. But if I fly to a different landing strip, there's so many things that you got to really think about, and you guys kind of take care of that. So talk to about like just how you came up with some of these ideas, how you treat clients. Why is it so important to serve these clients in this way, and even to the finest details, I guess?
No, I really appreciate that, and you're right. That's what I mean by the tail grew a dog, and you're looking at the luckiest guy on the planet, because a lot of the things that we built into our DNA of our business were intuitive, that we've learned along the way. But now I look back on hindsight, and a lot of times, a lot of the things that we've done is quite clever. I guess I'm firing off with, by the way, as an executive and a human being, I'm a bit of a golden retriever. I can quickly chase a Frisbee, so I can lose track. But one of the things you asked, like, how do we come up with our products and our lines? And I remember once Edsel Ford, when an interview he did years back, and they said, "My gosh, how did you know? Did you poll the customers to know they wanted a motor buggy?" And he's like, "Of course not. I didn't ask the customer. If I'd have asked the customer what they wanted, they would have said faster horses."
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we built is not necessarily driven by what the customers want. And an example of that, again, is how did we come up with it? Well, and you made the comment that my clients are demanding. They kind of are, the rock stars, the country artists that we've flown are, it can be quite demanding. I mean, let me throw a couple under the bus, my friends, Aaron Tippett, he's demanding. I hope you watch this, Aaron. You're a demanding dude, but they are. If they want lobster sandwiches without mayo and you bring one with mayo, it's a bad day. And what's interesting is that taught me at an early age how important the small details are. And now that I'm flying doctors, they're not any less demanding, but the doctor is really, really focused on that heart transplant. Mm-hmm. And he's focused on the heart. And what happens is he's in the hospital all day, seeing clients and patients and doing work. And at 11 o'clock at night, his phone goes off and a heart comes available in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And at midnight, he's on a jet all night, and he's back at 7 a.m. with the heart to go do the install. And they've never thought about food. Yeah. They never thought about eating or resting. So, we try to think of all those little things, and we try to keep the profiles on, who's our vegetarians, who has a shellfish allergy, who loves peanut butter, and who's allergic. And we try to have that food on there without them asking. And then they get on the plane, like, "Oh my God, you thought to feed us. Thank you." And then we got their blankets and their pillows, and they go, "Oh, we can take a nap." And it's like, "Well, I would like you to take a nap before you do my heart surgery. So please take a nap." So yeah, we try to think of all those things for the clients and keep those, profiles in mind. But as a business, I've also found, I joke about me being a golden retriever, but humans are not all humans either. And a resume is not a resume, and not all pilots are made the same, and not all customer service representatives are the same either. There are some pilots that actually take offense to carrying luggage because that's not what they went to school for. Well, there are jobs out there really, really well designed for you. And for my company, I want those that see the grandma headed to the intersection. They have that, what they call customer panic. Their blood pressure goes up because they feel like they should go carry their luggage.
Yeah.
I need those kind of people because I can know Brett's favorite food, but if I don't have a crew at 3 a.m. that won't take no for an answer in Kalamazoo, Michigan, when the streets are rolled up, go find food because they're going to depart at 4 a.m. and we got to find it. You got to have a certain breed of pilots who are willing to go on that hunt and not take no for an answer. And then I need the kind of customer service representatives who enjoy serving other people. So, our business design really, really, really starts at number one, at finding the cultural fit, because I can teach you to fuel a plane, tow a plane, call a limo, fly a plane, fix a plane. I can't teach you culture. I can't teach you customer panic. I can't teach you to love and want to love your customer, hug your customer on a regular basis. And so that's probably our key right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you seem like you're one that just models that. I mean, I see humility in you even before the show. I mean, you were a little bit nervous even doing this. I mean, and I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, Roger Woolsey is a big deal. Right.
Now I want my wife to watch this. Okay.
But I think that you just you've modeled that. I mean, even back to when you were 19, early 20s, you're fixing the plane, you're greased up, now you're flying it. I mean, you have carried that throughout all of the years, and now you're passing it on to your employees that work for you. So let's just talk about culture. I mean, obviously, a lot of people listening to this maybe have a small team, but it seems like you've grown a lot and scaled your business, and you deal with multiple clients, multiple pilots and customer service representatives that work for you. So how have you been able to just maintain that? Has it just been the right people? Talk to us about that. When you get bigger, how do you maintain the culture?
Great question. I default to what I know, getting back to the music business and in tours and concerts. And, obviously you have to have, Bono's got talent oozing out of his veins, right? I mean, of course he does, but Bono also choreographs every move and every spot on that stage that he's going to be to give a great performance. And so a few axioms or, I'm a pilot. I don't speak in full sentences. A few of those quotes in life, most quotes are very true, but a couple of them that I found not to be true. Build it and they will come is a bunch of BS. I build some of the most beautiful properties and some of the greatest airports, and customers just don't necessarily show up. You've really got to work hard. And so how do you maintain culture? I was told a long time ago that culture leaks. Processes leak, quality leaks. So whether you're in the manufacturing of widgets or you're in the service business, but I think it's even more difficult in service business, because if I am manufacturing an ink pen, I can jig a machine and it's going to keep stamping them out the same size and the same weight, the same amount of materials. But my product is people.
Yeah.
And we're in multiple countries and multiple cities, and they wake up hungry and tired and maybe hungover, and some are happy and some are having bad days. And we've all facing our own monsters. And how do you keep that whole thing going in the same direction is a big task. So culture leaks in distance. So if you're running a business and everybody's in your same office, it's a little easier than it is if you're in 7 cities, because you've got 7 mini cultures that can take place, right? So culture leaks in distance, culture leaks in time. One of your precursors, and I love it, you asked some of what's your favorite books, and believe it or not, I use this example in my culture, culture and training and teaching all the time. It's like, one of my favorite books of all times was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Mm-hmm. It changed my life the time I read it. At the same time, when I read it, there was nothing new, right? Begin with the end in mind and sharpen the saw and some of those things. That book changed my life. I quote it to this day, but I'm telling you, as I sit here today, I can't tell you the 7 habits. I mean, I know highly religious people that can't name the 10 commandments, right? So what I mean again is culture leaks in distance, culture leaks in time. So it's a very difficult thing. I could come up with a great idea, read a great book, have a culture process. And so I think the sharpening the saw piece of this Stephen Covey 7 Habits book, you got to keep reminding, you got to keep messaging. And so as a leader, what I find is that I do not sit behind my desk. I joke all the time that I say, because yesterday I was in 4 cities in 3 states. And people are, oh my God, you never sit still. And where are you? And my joke is always, it's hard to hit a moving target. Which is sort of true. I like that. But, and I'm a target and I keep moving. And it's hard to hit me. But the truth is I've got to stay in front of my team. I have to be visible. And every time I'm there, I'm tired of my message sometimes. It's like, I'm reminding constantly, we're in the king making business. We're not in the fuel business. We're here to make kings, and out of people who are already a big deal, but sometimes they land and they don't get treated like a big deal. They are a big deal. And I've said that so much, it's like, they've got to be tired of this, but I'll give that message in the Keys and in Marathon, Florida. And sometimes it's like, it's the first time they've heard it. So it's not, but we've got to constantly remind, constantly find new ways to remind. And I have to find other people to remind them. I'll come up with great ideas sometimes. And then I'll, The Experience Economy, another one of my favorite books, in Gilmore and Pines. And I remember one of their concepts is they call it ing the thing, find something mundane in your company and turn it into something sizzling, something cool. The gentleman who does the steaks and does the salt, he's inging the thing. He's salting the thing. So that was something very mundane and very normal, and now it's special. And so, for example, we went out and, every time you fly, you see somebody out there marshaling an aircraft into a parking space. But we went out and hired the Blue Angels and we brought them in, and our guys are crisp and these fancy hand signals, and the customers love it, and same hand signal, but it's not. We're inging it, right? So when I bring these other people in, and I brought Pines and Gilmore in, and they spoke to my company about inging the thing, and it's hilarious to watch the team, they get all excited. They're like, yeah, we've got to do that. And boss, we got to do this. This is a great idea. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been telling you all this for years. So it's like, the culture is important, and it's going to leak. And so if it's going to leak, just run around and stick your finger in as many of the dikes as you can and the holes as you can, meaning communicate, get out, be a servant leader, show and tell, be the first to work, last to leave. I have to throw bags. I have to pick up bubblegum wrappers. I got to fill toilet paper rolls. And when they see me do that, they realize, they mean it. The boss is doing it. It's like, yeah, we all do it. So I think you just got to keep living it. Live that brand, don't just speak it. Don't just put a sign on the wall. You have to live it every day. And I think that's the magic in doing it. Yeah. I think.
No, definitely. And I think that you guys even do it not only for the celebrities, the famous people, the rock bands that you travel, but everybody. You talked about the grandma with her baggage, right? And if you have that mindset with everybody, that's the difference maker. I believe that's why you guys have been successful. So, Roger, before we kind of wrap up the show, thank you so much. I want to just talk about, so on your website, it talks about you target the 1%, which is basically the minimum household income is about $500,000. The median household income is over $2 million. So you are constantly surrounded by high high net worth individuals. So obviously you've named a lot of them already on this particular show. I'm sure there's hundreds more, but what is like one thing or something that you've learned from being around these individuals?
I'd like to two things on that, if you don't mind. One, it is absolutely very true that we're in that top 1%, but I think America in general, we're all in the top 1%. I forgot the statistic, but if we get to eat 3 meals a day, we're considered in the top 3% of the global wealth.
Yeah.
So that's true anyway. But I think private aviation does get misunderstood sometimes, like it is only for the Kardashians or the the elite wealthy, and it's really not. It reminds me of the cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I saw a cell phone, I thought somebody answered a call in a restaurant. I thought, you got to be kidding me, man! Like you're that important? You got to have a phone at a restaurant? I mean, that was the first phone. Remember, they were the big bricks, though.
It was it was probably. I remember the old car phones. That was the big deal. Someone pulled out their corded car phone.
Yeah, and they had an antenna on the truck that's like 15 feet in the sky.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. I love all that. I mean, I still remember all this. So, but now, can you imagine? They're not a luxury. They can be a luxury, but they're a tool.
Yeah.
I would be not even a fifth as successful as I am if I didn't have one of these to answer immediate emails and take care of multitasking. And that's what aviation does. It unleashes the power to be everywhere in a day or anywhere when needed. When the customer needs you, you can respond immediately. And there's, the most innovative, most admired, best brands, best places to work. 92% of those companies are operating private planes. And it's not because it's boss hog and you're rich and you get a jet with the horns on the hood. It's not that. It's the jet makes you successful. The aircraft gets you to market. I mean, if I've got a client, for example, I'm in a business that says, hey, gee, I got an idea for you. And if I can get on my aircraft and get to that idea and capitalize on that idea before my competitors can even start calling the airline and waiting an hour to schedule a flight and get everybody together, I've already closed the deal before my competitors can even think to get to the city.
Yeah.
And that's what aircraft do. And one more interesting statistic about that, something like 85% of all the movements of these airplanes that are on the ramp every day, 85% of them do not have what they call the C-suite on board. It's not the CEO, CFO, the chairman of the board. It's the workers. It's the Tyson food folks that are out there, coming up with the next best way to raise and bring, chickens healthy into market. It's the attorneys, it's the deal closers, it's the sales team, it's the widget fixers. So it's a lot more mainstream than you might ever imagine. But having said that, they are all successful, and the aircraft help them make that. So what have I learned by being around them? Good question too. What's the other quote? Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I think that steel sharpens steel. I think that it is good to be around these great movers and shakers. And what I think there is a common bit of a thread in them is that, they have BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, most of them, right? They're trying to accomplish, they're trying to make something out of nothing. They're trying to create value for their communities, their families, their companies, their employees. I like anything, there's bad apples everywhere. There's bad pastors. There's bad school teachers. There's bad cops. I mean, but that is the 1% almost in every industry. So of course there we see some that, a 1% that is like, but 98, 99% of our customers are kind, gentle, givers. I mean, you talked about one of them. You said, one of the things on our Millionaire Strong, when the hurricanes were hitting, we're often first responders, right? I mean, we have to flow fuel to get, in a hurricane is a good example, right? I mean, when the hurricanes hit Houston, Florida, and Puerto Rico, I mean, I remember I was the first aircraft that landed in Puerto Rico. There was not a power line standing on that country when we landed there. And talk about seeing the best of humanity, right? So again, you've probably not read this anywhere because it's not really marketed, but millionaires at one of the airports, we went down, we took a FEMA grade satellite phone generator set, people and food and water. We landed, we gathered our team because we knew that we had to be the first ones to open. Otherwise, nobody could get to the island to bring any support, Red Cross, nothing, medicines. So we get in the island, we get the debris off the runway, we fire up the satellite phone, we're calling Miami Trade-Con Center, and Miami's like, great, you're the first communication that we've had on the island. What's it like? Not even the control towers are open yet. We're like, okay, the runway's clear. The weather, I see blue sky. And they're like, we got a bunch of airplanes. I said, send them on. So we got fuel, let's go. And I hate to name names, and I probably shouldn't at this moment, but I'm talking about corporation after corporation after corporation after corporation. Just the planes were landing. They were filled to the roof with baby food, medicines, waters. We would dump all that off and they'd have 8 empty seats. And there was a sea of almost refugees. You had elderly people, sick people that the hospitals had no electricity and stuff. And they would literally take 8 people, women and children, stick them in the 8 seats, and okay, this jet's going to Atlanta, and the people there are like, that's great, Atlanta. We have electricity, we have medicine. And they bring 8 people back to Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago. I think we evacuated something like 14,000 people in the first week before the first airliner ever landed to be able to take, before the first Red Cross ship showed up to take care of people. We had already pulled 14,000 people off that island through private aircraft.
Wow.
So I see goodness in people.
Yeah.
And I see value creators. I see job makers, market movers, innovators. And it's inspiring, encouraging. And that's what I love. Yeah. I love that part I love that part.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And a lot of times, again, just taking us back to the beginning, we see some of the charter plane luxuries of the rock bands. But what I'm hearing more now is just the efficiency, the rapid of going in to these catastrophes, getting a transplant to someone who needs a heart, right? This is where we're going. And
there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more depth.
Definitely. And we can talk more about that. Millionaires Strong, providing relief for charities. You guys do that as well. I just have two other questions as we wrap up the show. So you talk about, we talk about Uber a little bit. Is this going a little bit more that direction? Or you talk about the cell phone, where it used to be crazy seeing someone holding a cell phone. Now your 15-year-old daughter has one, or mine does at least. But
yeah.
And so do you find this is going more affordable, where the normal person is going to be able to access private aviation?
It is, but not. How do I answer this? The answer is absolutely yes. And COVID has absolutely shaken a lot of people out of the airlines into this tool. And now they're like, I didn't realize that we could do that. So for example, it's not that it's more affordable. It's not inexpensive to take a private aircraft. If you don't mind me pouting just a few incredible statistics. They did a study on the last market downturn for all the business folks who are listening. They took the S&P 500 and they broke them only into 2 categories: those that have corporate aircraft use, those that do not use corporate aircraft. The ones that use aircraft, they had a 434% higher average annual earnings growth coming out of that last economy. They had a 252% higher stock and dividend growth rate. They had a 496% faster, higher market capitalization growth. So the question isn't, is it more affordable? It's like, oh, I didn't realize if I pay $100 a month instead of free or $10 a month, for $100 a month, I could do 4 times more work. It's like, it's not that it's inexpensive. It's when you use it, what does it bring back? And for those that do have money and wealth, or private families, well, it gets you back to your daughter's, piano recital instead of being stuck in a city overnight. Or it does allow you that opportunity to get back to Johnny's baseball game on time. So those are the kind of things that it does. Not that it's more affordable, but when you do spend the money, you get a return on investment that is try what you spent, and that's where the value gets untapped. That's where it unleashes the power of air power, if you will.
And I think we talked to a lot of business owners, and there's a lot of business professionals listening to this particular podcast. And yes, I mean, we definitely understand the return on investment, and it doesn't have to always be money. It could be your daughter's piano recital, which is pretty much priceless in her eyes and your eyes. So,
correct.
No, that's awesome. Roger, thank you so much for being on the Snodgrass podcast. Really appreciate you. I want to give just props. How can someone, if someone is in that, they want to utilize Million Air, how can they find out more information?
We're on the web, www.millionaire.com, but like you said, it's aviation, not the game show. So when you do Million Air, there's no E at the end of air. It's AIR.com. But you could look up the millionaire.com. My email is actually my email. I answer it and get people in the right pockets. But or call your local airport. There's probably folks there too. And and again, when you do take a private aircraft, I mean, you got the whole aircraft. It's like, again, the Uber, whether it's you by yourself or 4 your friends, it's still the same price to go back and forth. So it really becomes efficient when you've got teams, and you need to be in some, smaller town markets to access your clients or products, it's an interesting tool. And I highly suggest it. The only warning label that I put on it is, I see it as a tool and not a luxury, but there's a joke that says any luxury used more than once becomes a necessity. And it is true. I know that if I bring a friend along on a plane, they're like, oh, this is nice. I want one. And if you take them twice, they go, oh, I need one. So be careful.
I love that. Guys, we're going to put that in our show notes too. So check out Millionaire on the web, on the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for that. Roger, I know you mentioned a couple of books already, and just any recently read book that you would recommend.
Well, for people in the service business, it's an older book, but The Value Profit Chain is really, really good. It brings full circle the employee, the investment, and the customer. I love that one. I mean, just all the classics. I mean, I love the classics. Tipping Point, Tribal Leadership, High Altitude Leadership was a really good one for me that taught me a lot. So, some that are not quite as mainstream, but I love them. They're very good, Awesome. They've helped shape our company. And I think that at the end of the day, after the book, the most important piece is just think long and hard of how can I keep that from leaking too far in my business. And if you only get one idea out of a book, I mean, that's good enough, just actually do it and keep it alive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We're going to put that in our show notes as well. And this is a wrap. Roger, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Appreciate you, buddy.
Brad, you're awesome. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work.